Okay, thank you, Otávio.
Hello, everybody. My name is Otávio Pitaluga. I'm your host. I'm the organizer of Tech Lives. That's our international session. We have organized 37 lives within 2021, speaking about innovation, entrepreneurship, human development, futurism, and many other subjects that are of general interest of everyone, financing everyone as well. So we have here today our session with our Indian friends. I'd like to briefly introduce Marcelo Vivacqua. Marcelo Vivacqua is a very long-term friend of mine. We met in 1983. Many of you have never were not born by that time, young people like you. But we met a long time and we are still friends. Marcelo is still my very good friend. And Marcelo has a wonderful job here in Brazil with innovation and connecting different cultures, different entrepreneurs all the while. And then he introduced me his Indian friends to discuss about Indian startups, unicorns, Brazilian innovation ecosystem, and what kind of opportunities we have here today. So what I will do, I will hand over to Marcelo, who will moderate, and he will introduce our friends. Welcome, Sashi Patel, Anand Kannan, Ramesh Ram. We're the most welcome. I hope to have you here in Brazil at some point in time, and based in Rio de Janeiro. And thank you so much for all of you. Marcelo, be our host from now on and enjoy the show, our audience. Thank you so much for everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much,
Thank you.
my
Thank
friend
you.
Otávio. So let's start. I'm very happy to be here today with my great friend Anand and with two very important people regarding the entrepreneurship and innovation ecosystem in India, Ms. Shashi Patel and Mr. Ramesh Ram. So before we start, I'd like to ask that each of you do a brief introduction about yourself, about your job in India, and how exactly you are contributing with the development of the ecosystem of innovation, especially startups in India right now. Ladies first, of course. Please, Miss, can you start?
Ladies
Can you,
first.
can you tell us, Shashi, please?
Sure. Hello, everybody. This is Shashikala Patel from India. So I work with Gujarat Education Department, under which I am working with State of Gujarat in implementation plans of National Education Policy, which is about promoting education excellence by providing necessary support to the all the stakeholders and students in particular by providing holistic approach of learning and as possible as financial support. And the second policy I'm working with is the student startup innovation policy, which is about developing student centric innovation and free incubation ecosystem, providing support to flourish creativity and innovation in education systems. So this is what I have been working in education department to promote education excellence and innovation across the state. Thank you. That's me.
Thank you very much. You're very welcome here. So,
Thank you.
Mr. Ramesh, please, can you introduce yourself to us?
Yes. Thank you, Marcelo. Thank you, Otavia, and thank you, Anand, for giving me the opportunity. I am an entrepreneurship evangelist. What it means is I help aspiring entrepreneurs to build their companies, or if they've already started their companies, I help them to grow. Therefore, I am a scale and growth specialist. I actively work with a lot of startup companies and then aspiring entrepreneurship. They may be either in college campuses or they are already out and then they are launching their own ventures. Before this role, I actively worked for Fortune 10 companies to Fortune 100 companies. I lived and worked in Australia, Brazil, Malaysia, Singapore, and the United States of America. More than 20 years outside India. Now I am back in India. India is the third largest startup ecosystem. And then since I have already worked with Brazil, when Anand and Ottavio informed me, I grabbed this opportunity. Lot can be done between India and Brazil. Therefore, I am excited to be here, and then I'm looking forward to take this collaboration to the next level along with Anand and Ottavio and Marcelo and Sashi's work. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Ramesh. I totally agree with you. Brazil and India has a lot of in common, and of course, we can do a lot of good things together to exchange talents, to exchange technologies, to exchange people which can contribute to solve problems in both countries. Now I'm gonna ask my dear friend Anand to introduce himself because he's the icon of innovation in India. Actually, all of you are icons there. That's why I'm so happy to have all of you here to contribute to improve the ecosystem of innovation in Brazil. And of course, I'm quite sure we have contributed as well with our talents and our startups. Please, Mr. Anand.
Namaste, my name is Anand. I represent a company called as Avas Digitech. We are based out of Bangalore in India, and we have created India's first reverse accelerator ecosystem called as Sparkino. And through Sparkino, we are trying to work with a lot of problem statements, addressing it for the governments, corporates, federations, and likewise. Apart from that, I am also the country director for IFIA's Latin American chapter in India. Again, we try to work closely with governments and universities to improve the innovation thought processes, working as innovation think tanks, and trying to see how best to improve the innovation index of the country and the innovation ecosystem of the country to be scaled up. So I think that's a brief about what I do and how we can work together with India, Brazil as partners, and how India and Brazilian startups come together and develop products for the world market and take it to different countries across the world.
Thank you very much. So let's go direct to the point. India nowadays is a highlighted country regarding innovation, especially in startups world. India is the last data from 2021. India is occupying the third place in the number of unicorns in the world. And India is in the spot number 5 regarding the ecosystem, friendly ecosystem for startups in the world. The question which everyone wants to know the answer is, what's the secret of the India to get so high positions in the innovation rankings? I'd like to start with Mr. Ramesh. Please tell us what the initiatives that you have
Yes.
been realizing from the government, from the private sectors, which have been contributing for this high performance of India startups, please.
Sure. Let me start with an historical context. In 18th century and 19th century, India contributed to more than 60 to 80 percentage of a global GDP. Okay? India as a country made so many other countries to prosper. That was the power of great India in 18th and 19th century. That much knowledge, that much value, that much strength was there. Then I don't want to politicize, but East India the British colony came in, then the entire innovation education structure got derived, and then we lost that global contribution. Otherwise, historically, India as a nation have made so many countries to prosper. So that is historical context. Now, right now, what is happening? As you rightly said, Marcelo, it is not only the unicorns who are inspiring the youngsters, even the current graduates, they are very clear. They don't want to be job seekers, they want to be job givers. So that little bit cultural inhibitions are going away on entrepreneurship. Now, Indian family, Indian parents, Indian students are thinking entrepreneurship is an option. Now, with the latest government, the federal government and the state governments are providing lot of supports and schemes, and that is where Marcelo, this event today, what you and Otavia are driving are very, very important. If we can bring back what India can do for Brazil, therefore Brazil can benefit. In the process, if Brazil's problem, the reverse engineering Anand is referring to, can be solved by the innovation startup ecosystem between India and Brazil, Brazil benefits, India can be happy, Brazil is benefiting. Enterprises or people involved here, like Anand or Ms. Patel, we can be happy because we are solving or we are adding value to enterprises of Brazil. In the process, the entrepreneurs, youngsters in India can be the beneficiary. So all the wherewithal is available. We need to put the forums like this have to ensure that we put the right mechanisms, ways of working to ensure the benefits can go to Brazil as a country. Marcel.
Excellent. Thank you very much for our speech. So that's why I think both countries, Brazil and India, can do a lot of things together because there are a lot of similarities between the two countries regarding geography, regarding the people's challenges, and of course the solutions which can be applied in India can be applied in Brazil and vice versa. So, Mr. Anand, please tell us, in your opinion, what is the secret of the success of startups in India? Is the government, which are working very well? Is the private sector? Or is the entrepreneurs themselves that have been a great job? I'd like to ask to close the microphone, please, because a little interference. Who is not speaking, please? Go ahead, Mr. Anand.
Okay, now coming to the government's approach towards innovation and startup. Enough policies have been created by the federal government and state governments in respective states of India to ensure that startup and innovation is becoming the driving force. And this effort has actually increased in the last 5 to 7 years. That the power of driving the startups journey has really grown in this last 5 to 7 years, or you can say over the last decade. Just to take an comparison as to what has been happening between both the countries, in the as of April 2021, Brazil has about 10 unicorns that has come up. Same time, India has about 32 unicorns. But that does not mean that Brazil is not doing anything. Brazil has got its own set of industries which are really doing very good, and some of them are really, really leaders, like New Bank from Brazil, which is really very strong with the in the fintech sector, like what we have here in India in the form of Paytm, uh, which is also doing really good and has just been listed in the stock exchange. Now, coming to the kind of startups which both these countries are working, uh, let's take up sector wise how things are working with each of the sectors and how we can actually play work together in developing solutions which can be used by Brazil and India together. Brazil has about 550 startups which works exclusively on the edtech. At the same time, India has about 4,530 edtech startups, of which 4 are unicorns, and one has already gone beyond the unicorn level. It is a decacorn. Coming to number of fintechs, Brazil has about 771 fintechs which are operating as of now in the states, in various states across Brazil. And the startup growth rate in Brazil over the last between 2020 and 2021 is 421%, which is really, really huge. I think comparing to the growth rate of that is happening anywhere else in the world. And India has the funding deals of about 800 plus funding deals over the last 1 year that has gone up. Now, comparing all these things, putting all these numbers in place, what we can see is that its policy is one part which is driving. The second part is the hunger for becoming entrepreneurs. That is the driving force. So it could be as simple defined as sell the problem you solve, not the product. If you do this, if you do this, you are already in the business, and people are listening to you, and there are enough opportunities that can come up between both these countries where startups can come together, develop products which can be used in both the economies and also be used in other parts of the world. These models can be taken across, because Latin America is a huge continent, Asia is a huge continent, where we can replicate products and also take it to countries like where in Europe, Africa, and the United States market. So that's my take on the whole thing.
Thank you very much. I totally agree. The power of the entrepreneurs is much bigger than any government or any private sector action. If the entrepreneur don't have the spike of innovation inside him or her, nothing is gonna happen. So please, Mr. Shashi, what do you think about the activities that the government and private sectors have been doing to improve the ecosystem of startups in India?
Uh, Thank you, Marcelo. So I'll be talking. So since I have been working with Gujarat ecosystem very closely, I would like to talk about it more. Like in Gujarat, we have 90 plus universities, to more than 2,800 institutions, and there are around 60,000 faculties and 50 more than 50 lakhs students. So this is the education level scenario of Gujarat. So we have, as a state, government of Gujarat basically launched a policy called Student Startup Innovation Policy in 2017 to foster the innovation among students and basically fostering them to think after the box and being job creators rather than seekers. The whole policy was about sensitizing key stakeholders about innovation and startup and entrepreneurship as well. So under this student startup policy, this policy has been designed this way that it has student level support, institution level support, and university level support, under which basically uh, government of department has provision a budget of 20 crores each year for next 5 years to provide funding support to universities, institutions, and startups, so that funding could not, like, one of the issues for startups and institutions is funding. So government of Gujarat had made sure no student is behind because of funding, no institution is behind because of funding. So initial target was to provide the facilities to the students, institutions, as well as universities for providing proper infrastructure and facilities to the startup for their initial level of ideas. So government of Gujarat has been providing up to 2 lakhs Indian rupees to each of the startup proof of concept stage. The innovations has been provided up to 25,000 support for in IPR filing at domestic level, and up to 1 lakh Indian rupees for international patent filing and everything. So this is how government of Gujarat has started towards sensitizing and facilitating key stakeholders. Apart from providing such support, so government of education departments have been providing different courses named intellectual property, basically intellectual property rights. Then there is this entrepreneurship course they have been providing named NICE. So these are the courses which has been introduced to all the institutions and have been provided for free of cost by education department to sensitize key stakeholders, for example, faculty or innovators, to understand the concept well and help them to achieve the area of startups and innovations. So under the student startup innovation policy, there have been, so basically we have 15 lakhs of students, and in first policy in duration of 5 years we have reached to up to 10 lakh students under this policy as through different outreach programs. There are basically more than 15,000 students have signed up for the student startup innovation policy and got the funding support under proof of concept. Then there are more than 1,000 IPRs which has been filed by those students, and all this has happened in the duration of 5 years. So this is the level of efforts government of Gujarat has been doing to promote education, as well as basically promote education excellence and startup innovation ecosystem by providing them this, by facilitating them a proper culture and environment for being into the ecosystem and basically do pursuing their particular ideas and innovation throughout the journey. So they have this organization also which has been looking after the activities named Gujarat Student Startup Innovation Hub, formerly known as iHub Gujarat, who provides this incubation services, and they also help in acceleration part. So the sensitization SSIP policy. Now, iHub Gujarat have been trying to help those startups by providing them mentorship, by connecting them with the different industry leaders who could facilitate outreach as well as acceleration part. So iHub has been not only providing funding support but have been providing all mandatory legal supports and have been guiding all the startups through the process till the acceleration stage where strategic partnerships come. Though in this iHub Gujarat, most of the startups have been already connected with the relevant industry and industry leaders, I would say. We have this different chamber of commerce where we have connected our startups. We have basically a small presentation with the commerce, basically chamber of commerces, where each startup present their idea in front of them, and the people who are really interested in supporting those startups, they come forward and they sign an MOU with non-disclosure agreement basically with us, and provide proper mentorship, market outreach, and even some of the startups have got funding with from the industries as well. So the government of Gujarat has been pushing this forward on the basis of triple helix model, basically not only education in institutions and industry has been connected, but government has also been providing a great support to foster the innovation ecosystem, the culture basically into the Gujarat, and to take this culture forward to the next level. So the government of Gujarat has decided to launch the second version of student startup innovation policy, which is going to be launched in January, most probably, in coming January, basically, most probably, which would be providing a sector-specific support to the startups, which the startups will get connected to the sector-specific industries, aware of and that policy. This is
Thank you very much.
part. I I think with this experience, I mean, not only I with Brazil definitely, but then Gujarat have been doing great, and I think we can have this innovation exchange programs with the universities or incubation centers. We can have this training programs together. We can have and another thing and very important thing which I would like to mention is in Gujarat every year there are 2,000 plus research scholars who have been pursuing their PhD in different and unique subjects, which can be leveraged actually, where we can have we can basically push forward the collaborative research with the Brazil and Gujarat. So I think there's a huge potential and great market, I would say, for us to collaborate and to take things forward. So I think I said a lot. Please over to you.
Thank you very much. I'm very happy, and I'd like to congratulate the Indian government to have this initiative to foster great policies for education, entrepreneurial education, and funding, of course, and create many environments like accelerators, incubators. So I'd like now to talk about one very important subject, the relationship between the private companies and the universities. Because yesterday I was giving a speech, and the title of my speech was How to Turn a Scientific Project into a Startup. So, and I was talking to about 1,000 students and teachers, and I said to them that the better environment to create a startup, actually any kind of business, but especially startups, is inside the academic environment ecosystem. Why? Because there is all the ingredients for innovation happen. For example, there's a multidisciplinary team. You can look for answers from engineering, from doctors, from designers, etc., etc., etc. And I was talking to them that they need to take advantage of the time they spend inside universities, technological centers, etc. I'd like to hear from each of you, starting with Anand. What about the relationship between universities, academical centers, and the private sectors? Because this is another great way to create innovations. Because here in Brazil, we have many open innovation initiatives. Big companies launch challenges, and then the startups can apply to solve these challenges. And of course, they get funding for that, and the environment, incubator, etc. Alan, please, how does it work in India, the relationship between companies and universities?
It's a very, very important question that you have raised on how industry and academia should partner and work. In fact, today afternoon, our meetings that I had today, I'm currently in the state of Gujarat. I'm sitting here discussing with people on how this same subject has to work with 97 universities in one state. And Gujarat is supposed to be one of the most progressive state when it comes to industries. You have n number of pharmaceutical companies, chemical companies, and one of the world's biggest manufacturer of denim. the jeans that we all wear comes from this state. It is called a it is the hub for denim. And and lot of effort now has to be focused on bringing industry and academia together to bring in new product developments and new inventions has to start, where academia works on innovation, industry takes those innovation to the market and commercializes it. In India, not I don't know much about how many industries are actually participating, but I do know there are a couple of institutions with which university industry is working very closely. To name a few is Indian Institute of Technology, with whom industry works very closely, especially IIT Chennai and IIT Mumbai, where a lot of work goes on between industry and academia. Then there is another place called as UDCT, which is the University Department of Chemical Technology, again in Mumbai, where a lot of work happens between the industry and the chemical industry specifically. And then there is under is CFTRI, which is Central Food Technology Institute. CFTRI works on food technology with defense, with industry. So there are a couple of bodies with whom industry and academia already has a relationship. But this is just not enough. We need industry to be supportive and work closely with academia, because whatever the academia PhDs or research scholars are doing, those researchers should not be just theoretical research or just be theoretical PhDs. It should be validated in the market. And once validation happens, there is a commercial potential, there is dollar value added to it. And with that dollar value, it not only increases your GDP, but it also increases your innovation index. The world recognizes you for that. And that's where the developed economies of Switzerland, Japan, Korea, and for that matter, even Brazil, a lot of countries, even in Latin America, where industry and academia work together, where academia does the research, industry does the commercialization. So this has to become a very close knit family in the coming years. Only then we can see that India's innovation index will improve faster, and there is a good growth for product as well as good growth in research and development, and innovation as such will prosper.
Sounds good. Before I transfer the word for Mr. Hamesh to hear his insights, I'd like to give you to make an announcement here. Mr. Anand already knows, but these open innovation initiatives that the companies here in Brazil used to do frequently, the government of Espírito Santo State, where I work right now, I'm a subsecretary of state innovation in government initiatives. We are going to launch an international program of open innovation to look for solutions created by startups from all around the world for the challenge of the government. And of course, many startups from India will participate, I'm sure about that. Mr. Hamesh, please let us to know what do you think about the importance of the relationship between companies and academia, please.
Very good question, very good point, Mr. Marcelo, and then even Anand's response is fantastic. But let me bring other dimension to it to make it very, very beneficial for both Brazil side, India side, and also the enterprise and then the academia side. The crux of the problem is the business skills or the talents. The education system in general, especially from the Indian viewpoint, it is skewed towards job or skewed towards marks and then ranks. It is not yet giving the needed entrepreneurial skills exposure or business skills exposure. Therefore, industry have to closely work with academia to ensure that academia trains their graduates to the business needs, because business landscape is changing faster due to competitive pressures, economic pressures, and also technology landscape is also changing. If this change is faster on one side, and then if academia is not able to catch up, then the graduates or the young minds cannot fulfill the expectations of the industry. Therefore, industry academia must have to work closely. The starting point can be by giving either the business problems, as Anand was saying earlier, the reverse acceleration, or if we give the business problems from industry to academia, treat it that as a course, treat that as an elective, whatever you want to do it, please, academia, but ensure the graduates, the young minds, get a learning of business skills first. They can become entrepreneur, or even if they go and take a job in industry, they are well trained, tuned to the expectations of the industry. Therefore, what we can do between Brazil and India is one important dimension that we can take is this business skills, entrepreneurial skills that can be trained, coached, mentored as an agenda between India and Brazil. If we can drive, then industry has got lot of challenges. Industry can give lot of business problems. There is no dearth of ideas, there is no dearth of problems. They are available plenty, but we don't have the working minds, research minds, students minds to work on it, because academia is going in one direction to give the degree certificates, to give the rank certificates, whereas industry is saying, I want to achieve something, I want to solve something. So this gap can be closed through skill gap arrangements is one suggestion. All other points Anand has already well covered, and then Mr. Marcelo, you, and then Miss Patil, you are driving the agenda from the government angle, which anyway is going good. That is my view purely from, let us ensure the skills, competencies of academia goes up. Therefore, industry can be the beneficiary of this industry academia collaboration.
Thank you very much. The triple helix is very important: government, academia, and of course, university, academia, government, and the private sector, the industry. The other important thing to set is regarding the policies to stimulate young people to become entrepreneurs. That's why I created the association to stimulate. One of the missions of the ABIPIR association that I'm running right now is to stimulate the children and teenagers to go through the ways, the path of the applied science. Because I used to say there's two paths to be followed by the students. The basic science, very, very important, because without basic science, we're not going to arrive anywhere. But many of them has this entrepreneurship heart. And then we can give to them, we must give to them the opportunity to go to this path of entrepreneurship. And that's why these policies that Ms. Shashi told us is very important. So I'd like to hear from you, Ms. What's your opinion about the importance of this relationship between industries and universities? If there is some policies created by the government which can improve this relationship, please.
So, as I've already mentioned that Gujarat Education Department have been working on this triple helix model. So, under this, in policy, I mean, we have each stakeholder's role have been decided. Students would be basically encouraged to be entrepreneurs and work towards finding innovation. Be they can be not that successful in the startup, at least they can be an entrepreneur and they can achieve their entrepreneurial journey. The second part, when we are talking about it, is institutions, and when I'm saying institution, it's including universities and colleges and all the faculty members who have been working on this triple helix model.
I think she's having a little trouble with the internet connection, unfortunately.
Issues. Yes.
Let's see if she will come back.
Yeah.
But so that's very important insight that all of you are giving to us, and it only proves that the challenges from India environment, ecosystem of innovation is very similar to the challenges of Brazilian ecosystem. That's why we need to gather, as you well said, Mr. Hamesh, we have to gather our efforts to solve the problems for both countries. So unfortunately, Ms. Shashi has dropped out. I don't know if she will come back. So that's a great conversation, very precious conversation. We have a little more time. I'd like now to hear from both of you if you were the prime minister of the president or the minister of science technology and you had the power of the pen in your hands, what you do would be the first action to improve the startup ecosystem in India that you do? Mr. Anand, you first.
I wish I really had that in my hand. So, well, if that comes with a lot of responsibility when you talk of such kind of power with you. And if that is the kind of thing that I am required to do as a minister who is in charge of such a department, it would be the first step would be to see how to bring both industry, academia, and the policy of the government together to ensure that there is uh, an environment which nurtures startups, which nurtures innovation as the core portion. If again I am to talk of a country which mastered it and how we should take it forward is Singapore. If we have to survive and if a nation has to lead, it has to be innovative. And if it has to be innovative, it has to have the right set of people, the right set of policies, the right mindset, and the right encouraging team which does the job together. And it has to be with iron will. If you don't have that iron will to lead, we are not going to do it. As simple as that. And I think there is none other than former Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew's vision, which took Singapore to what it is today. And if any nation which needs to really look up and learn, I think we have to learn from Singapore, a tiny blip in the middle of all giants, but literally runs country excellent. I mean, you look up at the innovation portion of what Singapore does is it might be small. People might say it's a small country, it's easy to manage and all those things, but it's a country which has managed it, and it's all done in the last 40 to 50 years time, almost the same time as our independence between India and Singapore is not much, but the journey what Prime Minister Lee Kuan Yew's single-minded vision is what, in case if one has to act as a minister, is required to do. If you do that, yes, we can drive it. It doesn't matter if it's Singapore or India. That iron will and the will to do it is more important to drive the journey.
That's great. You can already occupy the post of Minister of Science Technology in India. The you can hold the pen with great responsibility and great talent as well. So, Mr. Hamish, that's our last question. Unfortunately, the time goes fast. And of course, after you tell us your insights, I'd like to invite my friend Octavio to come back here because he is a very humble guy. He didn't say, but he's a great entrepreneur. He's an innovative entrepreneur. He's a startup owner. And before we finish this live, I'd like to hear to him to present his innovation. But now, Mr. Hamish, what will be your first act as owner of the pen?
Right. All of us wanted money, income, whether employee or entrepreneur, we need money. Money comes from value creation. So if I am the president, if I am the minister, I will pass rule, sign on documents which very clearly says how the value is created, how the wealth can be distributed. So that is the first thing, rule or policy I will encourage as a minister. Having said that, Anand said it very correctly. Singapore is a greatest inspiration. It is smaller than Rio de Janeiro, but it has got a surplus fund bigger than UK and Germany's coffin. Singapore has got multi-billion dollars extra money with them. They don't have any natural resources. They don't have anything else. Only with concrete structure and people, if they can have multi-billion dollar surplus money, why not India? Why not Brazil? Therefore, the ministers, presidents in this forum, whether you are employee, whether you are entrepreneur, as Anand rightly said, and Mr. Marcelo, as you are rightly driving, let us ensure that everybody generate that income through the value can be created, therefore wealth creation is possible by solving the right business problems. That law, that policies, that collaboration, let us ensure.
I would
Sounds
just like to
great.
add one thing. I would just like to add one thing to what. Oh, what happened? Marcelo went off.
Yeah, Marcelo went off. Is it cutting off due to the time limit, Anand? Exact 1 hour, or
It's
no, it's
just a
47
minute.
minutes.
So I'll be
Yeah.
back into this conversation while the others are having fun somewhere else. I have a question for you. Um, Number one, I, we heard that the strategy for Indian startups to become unicorns is to launch their products in locally and test, use the Indian market as the test market, and then go to United States, go to United States or even to Europe, and then where you find, even though of course you have a huge population of almost 1 billion people, but then you go to American market where you have a different type of ecosystem and entrepreneurs and stock market and the way to make IPOs and things like this. So and also perhaps Europe later. Sometimes you go to Europe first, United States later. Is this the way, your recipe in order to become a unicorn, or it's just I say a strategy from some companies, but not a rule that all the companies will follow? Do you understand? So ladies first now. Well, you're missing you. Oh, you're back. Oh, she's a little bit shy, huh, today. So now let's go, Anand. Please help me.
Okay, I think most important reason uh, of success in this whole activity is, I think, one mantra that most of these unicorns or most of these successful startups would be following is: forget all the reasons why it won't work and believe in one reason why it will work. I think that is the mantra that everyone has to follow. There are 99 reasons why it will fail. Let's not bother about them. Let's worry about that one reason which will make us run, that mile, that extra mile which will make us successful. So I think that is something that we all should look into and take the journey forward in making the startups and the ecosystem successful.
Ramesh, do you like to complement something?
Yeah, so Atobia, it can be seen with three different optics. For Brazil companies, India can be market, India can be test bed. Therefore, Brazilian companies can become unicorns by leveraging India. That is one optics, one view. The second optics, all the unicorns of India may or may not necessarily leverage India as a market. They always had a global ambition. Many entrepreneurs are very clear. They have a global ambition. They are local when they started, but they evolved into the global. Therefore, it is not compulsory or it is not mandatory that Indian unicorns became unicorn because of India. Not necessarily. Same for Brazil, because 1 billion population for some of the Brazil company, if India can be a great market, so be it. We Indian entrepreneurs or organization like Anand's are more than happy to bring Brazilian startup to leverage India as a test bed or a test hub. Therefore, the answer to the unicorn ambition is the entrepreneur, be it in Brazil or be it in India, which market they want to address, how they want to pass the initial milestone, will help them to achieve the
किरण
ambition
फोन
or
रख
the
देना पहले, ये कर मेरे को खत्म कर लेना, नहीं आ रहा है नेटवर्क सही से.
Okay, I think there was some communication pop up in the family.
Very quickly, Marcelo, I
Yes,
asked
like
them.
what Mr. Ramesh just mentioned, we already have one Indian unicorn OST which has started operations in Brazil in the education sector called as Byju's, BYJUS. They have already started their operations in Brazil, and it's not only a unicorn; it's already a decacorn. So I think they are working, and similarly there are a couple more startups, and I think I have been asked by a couple of startups in India which are in the education sector to take them to Brazil, and they are not unicorns yet, but they are looking up at the option of working with Brazilian startups or in the Brazilian market. So there is enough scope that we can look. It's not required that only unicorns should be the ones, but we can also look up at startups which have scaled to some extent, and those can also look into markets apart from their respective regions where they're operating.
So, Marcelo, the question I asked them by the time you dropped a little bit were about the Indian strategy to become unicorns, starting up in India and then going to United States. Okay, then I hope that Sashi is back and if she can reply this. But then I have another question for Marcelo. I'll give you 1 or 2 minutes to think about, even though I know that you have all the answer ready to go. You ask this, our friends what they would do if they were the innovation and technology Ministry of Brazil. And then my question to you is the same. What would you do, your first act? But then, Shashi, you'd like to reply about the India strategy in order to become a unicorn, starting up in India and then going to other bigger markets like Europe, United States, and settle down the company there and having the headquarters in other countries in order to go to the rest of the world, to have the global approach?
So first of all, I'm really sorry that I got disconnected. So I'd like to continue where I left a bit, and then I'll get back to the answer, the thing you have asked. So I was talking about triple helix models. So in the policy, it has been the implementation, basically, not even particularly policy, but then implementation have been such that it has been made sure that each and every key stakeholder's role has been decided and defined, well defined. So the student have to work towards innovation, startups, and be entrepreneurs and contribute by being entrepreneurs, providing jobs to their peer groups, and basically it is an end process by basically it ends by contributing to our economy at the last and contributing towards society development. So this is the part limited to the students. And then when we are talking about institutions, the institutions uh, have been providing this facilities, initial level facilities, infrastructure to these students who are enthusiastic about this innovation and who really wants to do something. They reach out to the institutions for that. So initial level of mentoring and facilitations have been, all the guiding mentoring part have been done by the institutions. Then those startups get incubated to the university. Basically they apply for the funding to the universities and get incubated there. So this is the academia part, which has been limited for right, no, no, for basically for this current scenario. So all most of the, so how startup innovation policy has been designed is on a multiple layer, college level, university level. Then I have Gujarat supports these innovations on state level. So by just to follow the process, we need people who could support throughout the process, or a link who could lead us towards another step. So once the institutions has done their part, the on the initial level ideation stage or proof of concept stage, I have provides them a more funding. If they basically after proof of concept, they provide the funding for the acceleration part and mentorship. They connect students, startups, and these innovations to the industry and help them to get commercialized as well. They have been helping these innovations for patent filing, trademark filing, IPR related filing, on not only on domestic level but on international level as well. And so the academia part has been basically limited to nurturing this initial level of ideas of students. And now comes the industry part. So industry, so we have been reaching out to industry on, by basically on initial stage we want them to help students to understand the process of getting commercialized. We we ask industries to give our startups and innovation a market exposure, what really market is, the initial level of, after an innovator or startup knows what they have to been doing, we request industries to make them familiar with the actual market scenarios and help them to get commercialized, how things work in the market, how they should be approaching to people. So when we are talking about strategic partnership, so we are talking about innovators, basically bringing innovators and adopters together. So this is the whole link that we have been following towards commercializing the innovation. So industries part has been limited to that so far. Now, when so basically, and government have been doing their job by providing support, all kind of support to the institution, to the startups, to even uh, this institutions called IHub. So each one has been defined a job roles for this, for implementing this policy. Now what can be done on that part to make it more basically valuable and impactful is that we can promote the collaborative research between industries and academia, where industries can take some of the scholar research and train them and help them to understand the actual requirement of industries, and academia can help industries to basically to find the solutions or to design the implementation or training it. Well, it could be in the form of basically designing new models, services, or even training modules that we are talking about. So this is how in industry and academia collaboration can start working and start contributing to each other, and that's how we can help our startups as well to get involved in such rigorous processes as uh, rigorous process to basically contribute towards industry academia collaborations which can benefit all the key stakeholders. So yes, I think triple helix model is one of the best thing to get implemented in the ecosystem, which can help us to contribute to our economy. So that is Gujarat has been trying to achieve, and they have succeeded to achieve, to be very honest. And the next level would be very sector specific, where the sector specific startup will get connected to the sector, particularly industries, and customized policy has basically Gujarat has introduced customized industry policy. We have dedicated IT policies. We have dedicated biotech policies to help those startups, basically to help the startups in particular sectors. So even Indian ecosystem has been basically going towards this journey of sector specific, and I think when the sector specific area or policies can be introduced, this triple helix model becomes more easy to implement and work with, because it would be sector specific. People would be knowing that what they want to do and what kind of support they would be getting if they are getting into a particular sector. So this is all about triple helix model and the uh, model that Gujarat education departments have been working. And now I would like to ask Octavio to continue forward because I forgot what was the question again.
Okay. Marcelo would be my next question. I hope that he will be back. So let's do the following. Um, let's go for the final step in our conversation. Let's see if Marcelo is back. Uh, I'd like to thank you all for your kindness, for attending, sharing your knowledge, experience, expertise, and also for your interest in developing a partnership with Brazil. As far as I'm a local entrepreneur, I have my own startup as well, and I'm very interested in see how can we can cooperate. We have been talking about this, and I have a very good hope that this will happen very soon. Then, the final words to all of you. Thank you, Anand, for getting together this group of fantastic people. Hamish for talking about our partnership. Sashi for meeting you for the first time online. Of course, I'd like to thank Marcelo. Let's mention him as a good friend to who foster this meeting. And Anand, your final consideration. Let's go like this. Now you do the other way around. Boys first, and the lady. Lady is the one who has the final word. In Brazil, we say that we have to say yes, madam. So uh, a man supposed to have the final word. That is yes, madam. So, but then let's do the other way around here. Okay. I
Okay.
hope you enjoy my joke. A very, very lousy one, but that's the one I have for the time being.
Okay. Uh, just to conclude as to what we can, the common grounds where India, Brazil can look up at partnering and creating more unicorns down the line for both the countries would be to work, especially in the area of technologies relating to finance sector, agriculture, storage systems, and especially in the area of bio diversity, bio cultures relating to food, coming up with new food products which can benefit many parts of the world. So these are couple of sectors and industries where we can explore possibilities of working together, as both the countries have more or less the same kind of weather conditions, and it's huge, and we have diverse kind of foods that we produce. So we should look into those areas and provide a lot of options to the world when it comes to nutritious food, which can be supplied to the poorest of poor across the world. So that could be one of those areas. And the other area where both the countries can look up is education technology. How can education patterns change, and uh, how can different universities and industries from both the countries come together and create a new bridge which improves innovation, product development, and collaboration between industry and academia. So yes, as Parkino, we are working closely to see how we can do that in India, and we are also seeing how we can act as a bridge between India and Latin American market. And I hope we achieve what we have started in our journey, and let's see where the journey leads. And I hope to see a good future for all of us, and look up at more unicorns and more success stories coming up from both the regions. Thank you.
Ramesh.
Thank you, Ochavio, and thank you, Mr. Marcelo, and thank you, the Brazil team, for the opportunity given. Wonderful discussion. Lots of opportunities in addition to the areas which Anand have already said. Definitely, in terms of knowledge exchange or experiences exchange for entrepreneurial development, India can do a lot for Brazil. It's not only the coaches or the teachers, the abundant knowledge available can be transferred to Brazil. So that can be taken up. It can be across industries. It can be technology agnostic. That power, that knowledge power is abundantly available. So in addition to the sectors, what Anand already said, Octavio, if we can do a mapping where the knowledge is given, then the sector-wise drivers can be mapped as suggested by Anand. Huge, fantastic, implementable, workable, outcome-driven arrangements can be made possible between Brazil and India. With that positive note, I thank all the audience. I thank Anand who have introduced me. So special thanks to Anand,
Pleasure.
and great thanks to Mr. Ottavio and Mr. Marcelo. Miss Patel, nice to know the young kid on the block. You are doing wonderful
Same
work.
here.
Anand told me only 2 hours ago that he is in Gujarat. If I would have known, I would have been also taken the flight with him. So see you soon. Thank you all.
So you're most welcome next time for sure. So
Thank you.
Oh,
I would
Shashi.
not take much of your time. Thank you so much, everybody, for having me here. It was wonderful interacting with you, Octavio, and being part of this panel with Anand and Ramesh ji. Thank you so much, everyone.
Okay, guys, thank you so much. Big kiss to all of you. Welcome to Brazil. And I will say a special thank to my friend Marcelo. I was waiting for him. I hope he could come back, but perhaps he has an issue or his agenda is too busy by now because he told me he had a meeting by 2. So thank you so much. Let's close for
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Sure.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.
Have a
Bonjour.
nice
Obrigado.
evening.
Obrigado.
Bye.